Good evening. Welcome to day 6 of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day of the International Great Black Read Aloud Day 2024. And this is day 6, our contemporary day. My name is LD Robinson, and I am your reader for today. We are so excited about our fourth year, being in our fourth year of doing the read aloud. I say that every night, but I'm actually surprised we've been doing this for 4 years. And we are excited, and we still got books to choose from. Of course, we have a lot of books, but we are super excited about being able to give voice to words written by Black people all around the world. We do apologize for our delay in starting this evening. However, we are here and ready to get reading. Before we start, we want to invite you to subscribe to our website, greatblackreadaloudday.org, and stay abreast of all the news that we have by joining our mailing list. And if you haven't, follow us online at Black Read Aloud and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can find us at Black Read Aloud on all our social media handles and all the social media sites. And we're excited about it. So, we are partners with Fresh Book Festival, and this year, Fresh Book Festival will be held in Daytona Beach, February 22nd through the 24th in Daytona Beach, Florida. And we want to invite you to join us at Fresh Book Festival. If you are a seasoned author, or you are a new author, or you're looking to write, this is an excellent time to not only just sell your books as an author, but also to network with other authors, editors, publishers, and participate in various workshops of all types that support you as an author and help you along your journey. Day one of the festival is the film festival, and this year it is on the campus of Embry Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach, and it is hosted by the Stan Harrison State Farm Insurance Agency in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. And so we want to invite you to get your tickets online at freshbookfestivals.net. Come out for the film festival. Our featured filmmaker for this year is Santanish Myers, and we believe that you will really enjoy the films that she's bringing to Fresh Book Film Festival. And Friday and Saturday are book festival days. So all day you have an opportunity to interact with authors and go to the site, and you can see all the exciting authors who will be there and have a good time. Well, it is day 6 here at the International Great Black Read Aloud Day, and it's Contemporary Day. And so, contemporary literature is literature that occurs after a certain time period. So, it really, in our case, after the 1900s, starts in the 1900s. So, anytime after that is what we consider to be contemporary literature. And we have our selection for today, one who has proven to be a contemporary writer in many aspects. We know him well for his detective mysteries, but he also writes a lot of other things. He's well known for those as well. And so our selection for today is The Awkward Black Man Stories by none other than Mr. Walter Mosley. And so we would like to, as we do, we put up our title, and then I'm going to put up our cover because I'm reading from my e-reader tonight. And so we want you to see the cover here that we have. And here we are. It is The Awkward Black Man by Walter Mosley. The Awkward Black Man Stories by Walter Mosley. Well, let's get started with our read tonight. And our selection is comes from the chapter titled Pet Fly. Lena Donnelly works at the third floor reception desk of the Lansing mortgaging department of Carter's Home Insurance Company. Her sister Mona is somewhere on 5. They're both quite pretty. I guess if one was pretty, the other would have to be, seeing that they're identical twins. But they're nothing alike. Mona wears short skirts and giggles a lot. She's not serious at all. When silly Mona comes in the morning, she says hello and asks how you are. But before you get a chance to answer, she's busy talking about what she saw on TV last night or something funny that happened on the ferry that morning. Lena and Mona live together in a two-bedroom apartment on Stanton Island. Lena is quieter and much more serious. The reason I even noticed her was because I thought she was her sister. I had seen Mona around since my first day in the inter-office mailroom. Mona laughing, Mona complaining about her stiff new shoes or the air conditioning, or her most recent boyfriend refusing to take her where she wanted to go. I would see her at the coffee break room on the fifth floor or in the hallway, never at a desk. So when I made a rare delivery to Lansing and saw her sitting there, wearing a beaded white sweater buttoned all the way up to her throat, I was surprised. She was so subdued, not sad, but peaceful, looking at the wall in front of her and holding a yellow pencil with the eraser against her chin. Air conditioning too high again? I asked her, just so she'd know I was alive and that I paid attention to the nonsense she babbled about. She looked at me and I got a chill because it didn't feel like the same person I saw flitting around the office. She gave me a silent and friendly smile, even though her eyes were wondering what my question meant. I put down the big brown envelope addressed to Lansing and left without saying anything else. Down in the basement, I asked Ernie what was wrong with Mona today. Nothing, he said. I think she busted up with some guy or something. No, no, I'm a liar. She went out with her boyfriend's best friend without telling him. Now she doesn't get why he's mad. That's what she said. What she think? Ernie didn't suffer fools, as my mother would say. He was an older black man who had moved to New York from Georgia 33 years before and had come to work for Carter's home 3 days after he'd arrived. I would have been here on day one, he often said, but my bus only got in on Friday afternoon. I'd been at Carter's home for only 2 months. After graduating from Hunter College, I didn't know what to do. Even though I had a BA in poli sci, I really didn't have any skills, couldn't type or work a computer. I wrote all my papers in longhand and used a typing service. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I had to pay the rent. When I applied to Carter's home for a professional training position they'd advertised at Hunter, the personnel officer, Rena Worth, said that there was nothing available, but maybe if I took the mailroom position, something might open up. They hired two white PTs the day after you came, Ernie told me at the end of the first week. I decided to ignore that though. Maybe they had applied beforehand, or maybe they had skills with computers or something. I didn't mind the job. It was easy and I was always on my feet. Junior Rodriguez, Big Linda Washington, and little Linda Brown worked with me. The Lindas had earphones and listened to music while they wheeled around their canvas mail carts. Big Linda liked rap and little Linda liked R&B. Junior was cool. He never talked much, but he gave me a welcoming nod every morning when he came in. He dressed in gray and brown silk shirts that were unbuttoned to his chest. He had a gold chain around his neck and one gold canine. The Lindas didn't like me, and Junior was in his own world. Everyone working in the inter-office mailroom was one shade or other of brown. My only friend at work was Ernie. He and I would sit down in the basement and talk for hours sometimes. He told me all about Georgia, where he went on vacation every summer. Atlanta's cool, he'd say, but you better watch it in the sticks. Ernie was proud of his years at Carter's home. He liked the job and the company, but had no patience for most of the bosses. Working for white people is always the same thing, Ernie would say. But Mr. Drew's black, I said the first time I heard his perennial complaint. Drew was a supervisor for all postal and inter-office communication. Used to be, Ernie said. Used to be. But ever since he got promoted, he forgot all about that. Now he's so scared I'm going to pull him down that he won't even sit for a minute. Used to be he'd come down here and we'd talk like you and me doing. But now he just stands at the door and grin and nod. I don't get it. How can you like the job in the company if you don't like the people you work for? I once asked Ernie. It's a talent, he replied. Why don't you tuck in your shirt? Big Linda Washington said to me on the afternoon that I had unknowingly met Lena Donnelly. The sneer on the young woman's face spoke of a hatred that I couldn't understand. You look like some kind of fool hanging out all over the place. Big Linda was taller than I, broader too, and I'm pretty big. Her hair was straightened and frosted with gold at the tips. She wore one piece dresses of primary colors as a rule. Her skin was mahogany. Her face, unless it was contorted, appraising me, was pretty. We were in the service elevator going up to the fifth floor. I tucked the white shirt tails into my black jeans. At least you could make it even so the buttons go straight down, she remarked. I would have had to open my pants to do it right, and I didn't want to get Linda any more upset than she already was. Hmm. She grunted and then sucked a tooth. The elevator came open then, and she rolled her cart out. We had parallel routes, but I went in the opposite direction, deciding to take mail from the bottom of the stack rather than listen to her criticisms of me. The first person I ran into was Mona. She was wearing a deep red one piece dress held up by spaghetti straps. Her breasts were free under the thin fabric and her legs were bare. Mona, Lena too, of course, was short, with thick black hair and green eyes. Her skin had a hint of olive in it, but not so deep as Sicilian skin. I can see why you were wearing that sweater at your desk, I said. What? She replied in an unfriendly tone. That sweater that you were wearing, I said. What's wrong with you? I don't even own a white sweater. I saw your sister on the fifth floor in a red dress, and then I saw a fly who's sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. She turned abruptly. I swiped to quit there. She turned abruptly and clicked away on her red high heels. I wonder what had happened. Somehow I kept thinking that it was because of my twisted up shirt. Maybe that's what made people treat me badly. Maybe it was my appearance. I continued my route, pulling jackets from the bottom and placing them in the right inboxes. Everyone had a different inbox system. Some had their in and out boxes stacked, while others had them side by side. Rose McMormont had no box at all, just white and black labels set at opposite ends of her desk. White for in, black for out. If the boxes ain't side by side, just drop it anywhere and pick up whatever you want to, Ernie told me on my first day. That's what I do. Mr. Averill put down the rules 13 years ago, just before they kicked him upstairs. Ernie was the inter-office mailroom director. He didn't make deliveries anymore, so it was easy for him to make pronouncements. When I finished the route, I went through the exit door at the far end of the hall to get a drink of water from the refrigerated fountain. I planned to wait in the exit chamber long enough for Big Linda to have gone back down. While I waited, a fly buzzed by my head. It caught my attention because there weren't many flies that made it into the air conditioned buildings around the Wall Street area, even in summer. The fly landed on my hand, then on the cold aluminum bowl over the water fountain. He didn't have enough time to drink before zooming up to the ceiling. From there, he went to a white spot on the door, to the baby fingernail of my left hand, and then to a crumb in the corner. He landed and settled again and again, but took no more than a second to enjoy each perch. You sure jumpy, Mr. Fly, I said, as I might have when I was a child. But you could be a Miss Fly, huh? The idea that the neurotic fly could have been a female brought Mona to mind. I hustled my cart toward the elevator, passing Big Linda on the way. She was standing in the hall with another black woman talking. The funny thing about them was that they were both holding their hands as if they were smoking, but of course they weren't, as smoking was forbidden in any office building in New York. I got to wait for a special delivery from investigations, Big Linda explained. I got to go see a friend on 3, I replied. Oh, Linda seemed relieved. I realized that she was afraid I'd tell Ernie that she was idling with her friends. Somehow that stung more than her sneers and insults. She was still wearing the beaded sweater, but instead of the eraser, she had a tiny whiteout brush in her hand, held half an inch from a sheet of paper on her violet blotter. I bet that blotter used to be blue, huh? What? She frowned at me. That blotter. It looks violet, purple, but that's because it was once blue, but the sun shined on it from the window. Lena turned her upper torso to see the window that I meant. I could see the soft contours of her small breasts against the white fabric. Oh, she said, turning back to me, I guess. Yeah, I said. I notice things like that. My mother says that is why I never finish anything. She says that I get distracted all the time and don't keep my eye on the job. Do you have more mail for me? Lena Donnelly asked. No, I was just thinking. Lena looked at the drying whiteout brush and jammed it back into the small bottle that was in her other hand. I was thinking about when I saw you this morning, I continued. About when I saw you and asked about the air conditioning and your sweater, and you looked at me like I was crazy. Yes, she said. Why do you ask that? Because I thought you were Mona Donnelly, I said triumphantly. Oh, she sounded disappointed. Most people figure out that I'm not Mona because my nameplate says Lena Donnelly. Oh, I said, completely crushed. I could notice a blotter turning violet, but I couldn't read. The look on my face brought a smile out of the mortgage receptionist. Don't look so sad, she said. I mean, even when they see the name, a lot of people still call me Mona. They do? Yeah. They see the name and think that Mona's a nickname or something. Isn't that dumb? I saw your sister on the fifth floor in a red dress, and then I saw a fly who couldn't sit still, and then I knew that you had to be somebody else, I said. You're funny, Lena said, crinkling up her nose as if she were trying to identify a scent. What's your name? Rufus Combs. Hi, Rufus, she said, holding out her hand. Hey, I said. My apartment is on 158th Street in Washington Heights. It's pretty much a Spanish speaking neighborhood. I don't know many people, but the rent is all I can afford. My apartment, living room with a kitchen cove, small bedroom, and a toilet with a shower, is on the eighth floor and looks out over the Hudson. The $458 a month includes heat and gas, but I pay my own electric. I took it because of the view. There was a $300 unit on the second floor, but it had windows that looked out onto a brick wall. I don't own much. I have a single mattress on the floor, an old oak chair that I found on the street, and kitchen shelving that I bought from a liquidator for bookshelves propped up in the corner. I have a rice pot, a frying pan, and a kettle, and enough cutlery and plates for two, twice as much as I need most days. I have Rachel, an ex girlfriend living in the East Village, who will call me back at work if I don't call her too often. I have two other friends, Eric Shin and Willie Jones. They both live in Brooklyn and still go to school. That evening, I climbed the 7 flights up to my apartment because the elevator had stopped working in December. I sat in my chair and looked at the river. It was peaceful and I relaxed. A fly was buzzing up against the glass, trying to push his way through to the world outside. I got up to kill him. That's what I always did when there was a fly in the house. I killed it. But up close, I hesitated and watched the frantic insect. His coloring was unusual and metallic green. The dull red eyes seemed too large for the body, like he was an intelligent mutant fly from some far flung future on late night television. He buzzed up and down the pane, trying to get away from me. When I returned to my chair, he settled. The red sun was hovering above the cliffs on New Jersey. The green fly watched. I thought of the fly I'd seen at work. That one was black and fairly small by fly standards. Then I thought about Mona and then Lena. The smallest nudge of an erection stirred. I thought of calling Rachel, but didn't have the heart to walk the 3 blocks to a phone booth. So I watched the sunset gleaming around the fly, who was now just a black spot on the window. I guess I fell asleep. At 3 a.m., I woke up and made macaroni and cheese from a mix. The fly came into the cooking cove where I stood eating my meal. He lit on the big spoon I used to stir the macaroni and joined me for my late night supper. Ernie told me that Lansing Mortgaging got most of their mail from the real mail room, that they didn't get most of the inter-office junk mail. Why not? I asked. There's just a few people up there. Most of their employees are off-site. Well, could you put them on the junk list? She a white girl? So? Nothing. But I want you to tell me what it's like if you get some. I didn't answer him. For the next week, I took invitations to office parties, Salesforce newsletters, and insurance tips penned by Mr. Averill up to Lena Donnelly's desk. We made small talk for 30 seconds or so, and then she'd pick up the phone to make a call. I always looked back as I rounded the corner to make sure she really had a call to make. She really did. At the end of the week, I bought a paperweight with the image of a smiling Buddha's face in it. When I got to her desk, she wasn't there. I waited around for a while, but she didn't return. So I wrote her a note saying, "From Rufus to Lena," and put the heavy glass weight on it. I went away excited and half scared. What if she didn't see my note? What if she did and thought it was stupid? I was so nervous that I didn't go back to her desk that day. I really shouldn't have sent it, Andy. I said that night to the green fly. He was perched peacefully at the end of the center rim of a small saucer. I had filled the inner depression with a honey and water solution. I was eating a triple cheeseburger with bacon from Wendy's, that and some fries. My pet fly seemed happy with his honey water and only buzzed my sandwich a few times before settling down to drink. Maybe she doesn't like me, I said. Maybe it's just that she's been nice to me because she feels sorry for me. But how will I know if I don't try and see if she likes me, right? Andrew's long tubular tongue was too busy drinking to reply. "Hi," I said to Lena the next morning. She was wearing a jean jacket over a white t shirt. She smiled and nodded. I handed her Mr. Averill's insurance tips newsletter. "Did you see the paperweight?" "Oh, yeah," she said without looking me in the eye. "Thanks." Then she picked up her phone and began pressing buttons. "Hi, Tristan. Lena, I wanted to know if—" She put her hand over the receiver and looked at me. "Can I do something else for you?" "Oh," I said, "no, no," and I wheeled away in a kind of euphoria. It's only now when I look back on it that I remember the averted eyes, the quick call, and the rude dismissal. All I heard then was thanks. I even remember a smile. Maybe she did smile for a brief moment, maybe not. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of the next week, I deposited little presents on her desk. I left them while she was out to lunch. I got her a small box of 4 Godiva chocolates, a silk rose, and a jar of fancy rose petal jelly. I didn't leave any more notes. I was sure that she'd know who it was. During that time, I stopped delivering to her desk. I saved up all the junk mail for Friday morning when I deliver it and ask her to go out with me. Wednesday evening, I went to a nursery on the east side, just south of Harlem proper. There I bought a bonsai, a real apple tree, for $347.52. I figured that I'd leave it during her Thursday lunch, and then on Friday, Lena would be so happy that she'd have to have lunch with me, no matter what. I should have suspected that something was wrong when Andrew went missing. I put out his honey water, but he didn't show up, even when I started eating a beef burrito from Taco Bell. I looked around the apartment, but he wasn't anywhere to be seen. There was a spider web in the upper corner of the shower, but there was no little bundle up there. I would have killed the spider right then, but he never came out when I was around. That night, I wondered if I could talk to Lena about Andrew. I wondered if she would understand my connection to a fly. "What's that?" Ernie asked me the next morning when I came in with the bonsai. "It's a tree." "Tree for what?" "My friend Willie wanted me to pick it up for him. He wants it for his new apartment, and the only place where he could get it is up near me. I'm going to meet him at lunch and give it to him." "Uh-huh," Ernie said. "You got my cart loaded?" I asked him. Just then the Lindas came down in the elevator. Big Linda looked at me and shook her head, managing to look both contemptuous and pitying at the same time. "There's your carts," Ernie said to him. They attached their earphones and rolled back to the service elevator. Little Linda was looking me in the eye as the slatted doors closed. She was still looking at me as the lift brought her up. "What about me and Junior?" "Junior's already gone. That's all I got right now. Why don't you sit here with me?" "Okay." I sat down expecting Ernie to bring up one of his regular topics, either something about Georgia, white bosses, or the horse races, which he followed but never wagered on. But instead of saying anything, he just started reading the Post. After a few minutes, I was going to say something, but the swinging door opened. Mr. Drew leaned in. He smiled at Ernie and then pointed at me. "Rufus Combs?" "Yeah?" "Come with me." I followed Leonard Drew through the messy service hall outside the courier's room to the passenger elevator that we rarely took. It was a two-man elevator, so Drew and I had to stand very close to one another. He wore too much cologne, but otherwise he was ideal for his supervisory job, wearing a light gray suit with a shirt that only hinted at yellow. The rust hide was perfect, and there was not a wrinkle on the man's clothes or his face. I knew that he must have been up in his 40s, but he might have passed as a graduate student at my school. He was light skinned and had what my mother called good hair. There were freckles around his eyes. I could see all of that because Mr. Drew averted his gaze. He wouldn't engage me in any way, and so I got a small sense of revenge by studying him. We got on the second floor and went to his office, which was at the far end of the mail sorting room. Outside of his office, there was a desk for his secretary, Tasia Monroe. Her desk sat out in the hall as if it had been an afterthought to give Drew an assistant. I looked around the room as Drew was entering his office. I saw Mona looking at me from the crevice of a doorway. I knew it was Mona because she was wearing a skimpy dress that could have been worn on a hot date. I only got a glimpse of her before she ducked away. Come on in, Combs, Drew said. The office was tiny. Drew had to actually stand on the tips of his toes to get between the wall and the desk to his chair. There was a stool in front of the desk, not a chair. By the time he said, sit down, I had lost my nervousness. I gauged the power of Mr. Leonard Drew by the size of his office. You're in trouble, Rufus, he said, looking as somber as he could. I am? He lifted a pink sheet of paper and shook it at me. Do you recognize this? He asked. No, this is a sexual harassment complaint form. Yeah? It names you as the offender. I don't get it. Lena Donnelly. He went on to explain all the things that I had done and felt for the last week as if they were crimes. Going to Lena's desk, talking to her, leaving gifts. Even remarking on her clothes had sexual innuendo attached. By the time he was finished, I was worried about them calling the police. Lena says that she's afraid to come in to work, Mr. Drew said, his freckles disappearing into angry lines around his eyes. I wanted to say that I didn't mean it, but I could see that my intentions didn't matter. That a small woman like Lena would be afraid of a big sloppy mail clerk hovering over her and leaving notes and presents. I'm sorry, I said. Sorry doesn't mean much when it's gotten to this point. If it was up to me, I'd send you home right now, today. But first, Mr. Averill says that he wants to talk to you. Okay, I said. I sat there looking at him. Well, he asked after a few moments. What? Go back to the mailroom and stay down there. Tell Ernie that I don't want you in the halls. You're supposed to meet Mr. Averill at 1:45 in his office. I've given him my recommendation to let you go. After something like this, there's really no place for you. But he can still refer the matter to the police. Lena might want a restraining order. I wanted to say something. I wanted to tell him that a restraining order was ridiculous. Then I wanted to go to Lena and tell her the same thing. I wanted to tell her that I bought her roses because she wore rose toilet water. That I bought her the tree because the sun on her blotter could support a plant. I really liked her, but even while I was imagining what I could say, I knew that it didn't matter what I saw or what I felt. Well, Drew said, go. Ernie made busy work for us that morning. He told me that he was upset about what had happened, that he told Drew to go easy. But he just said that I better look after myself, Ernie said. Man forget he's black for you could say Jackie Robinson. Hey, bro, Junior said to me at lunchtime. Come on with me. Junior rarely talked to me, much less offered his company. This was an act of rare generosity, and so I took him up on it. The Lindas had ignored me completely. It was obvious that they knew about my troubles before I did, but hadn't seen fit to warn me. Where are we going? I asked Junior out on Broadway. It was a very crowded street at lunchtime. Couple of blocks. I got the feeling he was taking me somewhere special. I would have been excited, or at least ask him where we were going, but my mind kept going back to Lena. I wanted to explain to her, to tell her why I wasn't harassing her. There it is, Junior said. We had reached the end of Broadway. There was a small concrete island with park benches in the middle of the street. There were lots of young people hanging out and talking there. On one bench, the one Junior was pointing at, sat a muscular, ebony colored man with a bald head, wearing a dark blue, thin strap tank top. He was just leaning over to kiss a small woman, a white woman, Lena Donnelly. I brought my hand to my mouth and made a sound. He pushed his tongue brutally into her mouth, and she brought her fingers to his head as if she were guiding the attack. I turned away. Sorry, bro, Junior said. I felt his hand on my shoulder. I nodded and said, I'm going back up. I didn't wait for him to reply. I just started walking. Lancelot Averill's office was on the 48th floor of the Carter's home building. His secretary's office was larger by far than Mr. Drew's cubbyhole. The smiling blonde secretary led me into Averill's airy room. The wall behind him was a giant window looking out over Battery Park, Ellis Island, and the Statue of Liberty. I could have been impressed if my heart wasn't broken. Averill was on the phone when I was ushered in. Sorry, Nick, he said into the receiver. My 145 is here. He stood up, tall and thin. The medium gray suit looked expensive. His white shirt was crisp and bright, but that was nothing compared to the rainbow of his tie. His hair was gray and combed back, and his mustache was sharp enough to cut bread, as my mother was known to say. Sit down, Mr. Combs. He sat also. In front of him were two sheets of paper. At his left hand was the pink harassment form, at his right was a white form. Behind him, the Budweiser blimp hovered next to Lady Liberty. Averill brought his fingertips to just under his nose and gazed at a spot over my head. How's Ernie? He asked. He's good, I said. He's a great boss. He's a good man. He likes you. I didn't know what to say to that. Averill looked down at his desk. This does not compute. What? He patted the white page. This says that you're a college graduate, magna cum laude, in political science, that you came here to be a professional trainee. He patted the pink sheet. This says that you're an inter-office mail courier who harasses secretaries in the mortgage department. Averill's hand reached into his vest pocket and came out with an open package of cigarettes. He offered me one, but I shook my head. He lit up and took a deep drag, holding the smoke in his lungs a long time before exhaling. Why are you in the inter-office mailroom? He asked. No PT positions were open when I applied, I said. Nonsense. We don't have a limit on PTs. But Miss Worth said, oh, Averill held up his hand. Rena, you know Ernie helped me out when I got here 18 years ago. I was just a little older than you. They didn't have a PT program back then, just a few guys like Ernie. He never even finished high school, but he showed me the ropes. Averill drummed the fingers of his free hand between the two forms that represented me. I know this Lena's sister, he said, always wearing those cocktail dresses into work. Her boss is afraid to say anything, otherwise he might get a pink slip too. He paused to ponder some more. Twins, huh? They look alike? They don't dress the same, I said, wanting somehow to protect Lena from the insinuations that I barely understood. How would you like to be a PT floater? What's that? I asked. Bump you up a grade 7, and you move around in the different departments until you find a fit. I was a grade 1B. I thought you were going to fire me. That's what Drew suggested. That's what Drew suggested. But Ernie says that it's just a mix-up, that you aren't perverted or anything. I'll talk to this Donnelly girl, and as long as I have your word that you'll leave her alone, I'll forget it. This is personnel's fault in the first place. You're an intelligent boy, young man. Of course you're going to get into trouble if you aren't challenged. Watching the forbidden smoke curl around his head, I imagined that Averill was some kind of devil. When I thanked him and shook his hand, something inside me wanted to scream. I found 6 unused crack vials a block from the subway stop near my apartment. I knew they were unused because they still had the little plastic stoppers in them. When I got upstairs, I spent hours searching my place. I looked under the edges of the mattress and behind the toilet, under the radiator, and even down under the burners on the stove. Finally, after midnight, I decided to open the windows. Andrew had crawled down in the crack between the window frame and the sill in my bedroom. His green body had dried out. His eyes looked all the larger. He'd gone down there to die. Or maybe he was trying to get out of the life that I'd kept him in. Maybe it was me that had killed him. That's what I thought. Later, I found out that flies live only for a few weeks. He probably died of old age. I took the small dried out corpse and put him in one of the crack vials. I stoppered him in the tiny glass coffin and buried him among the roots of the bonsai apple. So you finally bought something nice for your house, my mother said, after I told her about the changes in my life. Maybe next you'll get a real bed. This has been our selection today, Pet Fly, from the Awkward Black Man Stories by Mr. Walter Mosley. And I'm going to put back up the cover here um, for our selection today, which again is The Awkward Black Man, wall by Walter Mosley. And we're so excited that you have joined us tonight for our selection. And hello, Miss Collins. She's waving at us, and we want to say thank you for joining us. And we were super excited about reading. And this is day 6, which is our contemporary day. And our selection for the day has been The Awkward Black Man Stories by Walter Mosley. And we hope you've enjoyed our selection, which was Pet Fly from the collection of stories. It is a wonderful book of intriguing stories written about, well, awkward black men. We hope you will get a copy and read it and enjoy it. Um, Tomorrow is day 7. We're reading every day this month, and we've got 29 days and we've got 29 books. And so we are going to be reading and reading and reading and reading. And tomorrow our selection is it is day 7, and so it is historical fiction or nonfiction. And so we have a wonderful selection for you tomorrow. And I should tell you that our selection today actually our author is from the United States of America. We're making sure that we tell you where all our authors are from. So if you want to join us in reading, we want to invite you to pick a date and read aloud a work written by a Black author. Pick any date, tag us at Tig Brad, and we'll go from there. Well, my name is LD Robinson, and I am pleased to be back with you for yet another Read Aloud, Black Read Aloud, here on the International Great Black Read Aloud Day 2024 edition. We'll see you tomorrow for day 7. Have a good night.